If my mother had asked me for money, I would have given it. If she had told me she wanted my twin sister to have the perfect wedding, I might have cried and handed it over anyway. But she did not ask. She told me my father was dying again. She sent me a fake insurance denial. She said we were $35,000 away from losing his treatment and maybe losing our home. I was 6 weeks into my first year of medical school. I emptied my savings. I signed a private loan at 9.5% interest. I sent her $36,850 because I thought I was saving my father's life. I was actually paying for my twin sister's dream wedding. And tonight at that same twins' graduation party, a party where I was not even invited, a man with a microphone is about to read my card out loud in front of 200 guests. My sister. Her wealthy in-laws, my father, my mother. My mother sees the envelope and turns white. Then she starts running for the stage. She is too late. Because in the next 30 seconds, everyone in that ballroom is going to learn what she did to me. And when the truth lands, it does not just ruin a party, it detonates a family. If you have ever had someone weaponize your love against you, if you have ever been guilted into sacrificing your future for someone who would never do the same for you, stay with me. Because this story does not get easier, it gets darker. My name is Mona Beller. I am 27 years old. I am a brand new doctor. And this is the night I stopped protecting the people who never protected me. The Bradford Hall Ballroom looked like a place built for perfect families. Crystal chandeliers, white roses, eucalyptus. White linen folded so sharply it looked pressed by hand. Everything expensive, everything polished, everything arranged to make one thing clear. This was a celebration for people who wanted the world to believe they had done everything right. I stood in the doorway at 5:30 in the evening with a heavy envelope in my purse and my heartbeat drumming so hard I could feel it in my throat. I should not have been nervous. I should have been furious. This was my graduation too, same medical school, same degree, same day, same years of sacrifice, same sleepless nights. Same anatomy labs and brutal exams and clinical rotations and breakdowns in hospital bathrooms and cold coffee at 3 in the morning. But the invitation said only one name, Gabrielle Beller Bennett. My twin sister, not Mona and Gabrielle, just Gabrielle. My mother had texted me 2 days before, "This is Gabby's night. Do not show up and embarrass this family." I read that text 10 times. Then I bought heavier cardstock. The room hummed with glasses clinking and forced laughter, and the kind of polished small talk people use when money is in the room. Near the front sat Douglas and Constance Bennett, my sisters-in-laws, the wealthy kind of wealthy where the money does not just buy things, it buys gravity. People lean toward them. Smile harder around them. Speak like they are auditioning for approval. Douglas was a senior attorney with courtroom posture and the habit of being obeyed. Constance sat beside him in pearls and silk with the serene smile of a woman who chaired charities and understood exactly how much social power lived in a well-timed glance. My mother adored them. Not because they were kind, because they were status. I watched her laugh at something Constance said and touch her own necklace like she belonged at that table. Like she had always belonged in rooms like this. Then her eyes found me. Her smile froze. The champagne glass in her hand stalled halfway to her lips. For one tiny moment, I saw the truth on her face. Not annoyance, not surprise, fear, real fear. Then it vanished. She straightened, smiled, started walking toward me. I looked away from her and found my father near the bar, Jeffrey Beller. High school chemistry teacher for 30 years. The kind of teacher former students remember forever. The kind who stayed after school to help the struggling kids and bought lab supplies with his own money when the district came up short. The kind of father who bragged about both his daughters every chance he got. He was wearing the same gray suit he wore to Gabby's wedding, the same one he wore to my white coat ceremony. I still remembered the empty chair beside him that day because my mother had skipped it with what she called a migraine. He had one hand around a club soda and the other gesturing mid-story to his brother. Both my girls are doctors now. That was my father, proud, open, oblivious. He had no idea that by the end of the night his marriage would be over in every way that mattered. "Mona." I turned. My mother had reached me. Her voice was low and sharp under a smile so brittle it looked painful. "I did not think you were coming. It is my graduation, too. You were not invited. I know." Her eyes flicked to my purse. "What did you bring?" "A gift. For Gabby." "Mona, please, not tonight." Interesting choice of words. Not "why are you here?" Not "can we talk?" Not "I am glad you came," just not tonight. As if she already knew there was something in that envelope that could tear through all this white linen and chandelier light and polished family theater. I gave her the smallest smile I could manage. "Do not worry, Mom. I am not here to make a scene. That part at least was true. I was here to tell the truth. And those are not always the same thing." She stepped closer and lowered her voice even more. "Do not do this in front of the Bennetts." There it was. Not "do not hurt Gabby," not "do not hurt your father," not "do not hurt this family." "Do not do this in front of the Bennetts." I looked past her at the head table, where Douglas Bennett was scanning the room with the cool, detached patience of a man who expects everything to be handled well before it reaches him. I looked back at my mother. "Then maybe you should have thought about that 4 years ago." Color drained from her face. I walked away before she could answer. At the entrance, a seating chart stood on an easel trimmed with greenery. 12 tables, nearly 200 guests, Bennett family, extended relatives, colleagues, friends, donors. People from Gabby's husband's world, people from my mother's fantasy of what our family had become. I scanned it once, then again. No Mona Beller, not even a pity seat at the edge. I had expected that. Still, seeing the absence in print did something to me. It reminded me how cleanly people can erase you while still benefiting from what you gave them. A woman from my father's side recognized me and waved me over to table 11. Distant cousins, smiles, awkward congratulations, the usual questions about residency and hospital hours. I answered automatically. My body was in the ballroom. My mind was in the envelope. On the stage to the left sat the gift table. That table was the entire reason I had come. The Bennetts had a tradition. Every gift opened publicly, every card read aloud. Public gratitude, public acknowledgement, public transparency. My mother had once described it like it was elegant. Tonight it was perfect. I waited until the room shifted toward dinner service. Then I crossed to the stage. Ryan Mitchell was there arranging boxes and ribbons. Tyler Bennett's college roommate. Confident voice, event smile, the designated master of ceremonies. He glanced up when I approached. Gift for Gabby. I placed the envelope right in the center of the pile. It was a large manila folder inside a thick cream sleeve, heavy enough to feel wrong in his hands. He picked it up slightly, then set it down again. "This one has some weight. It is meaningful." He smiled politely and moved on. He had no idea he was holding a controlled demolition. As I walked back to my table, my mother caught my eye from across the room. I could almost see her thinking. What does she know? How much does she know? How much did she bring? Everything. I brought everything. But to understand what was sitting in that envelope. You have to go back to the day she first called me crying. September 12th, 2021, 3:47 in the afternoon. I was 6 weeks into my first year at Rutgers Medical School and already learning what it meant to be broken down into parts. Muscle origins, nerve pathways, blood supply, histology slides. Flashcards stacked so high on the table they looked like a second curriculum. I had been in the anatomy lab so long the fluorescent lights felt personal. My phone buzzed. "Mom." I nearly ignored it. I wish I had. The moment I answered, I knew something was wrong. Her breathing was ragged. Her voice trembled. "Mona, thank God. I did not want to tell you like this. Your father's cancer is back." Everything in me went cold. What? They found something on the scan. He has to start treatment right away. I slid down against the wall with my back to the lockers and my notes falling around me. Dad had been cancer-free for 18 months. He had beaten colon cancer once already. Surgery, chemo, remission. Every 6 months, another clean scan. Every clean scan, another breath my family finally took. We had all started believing the hardest part was behind us. Now my mother was sobbing into the phone telling me it was back. What did the doctor say? They want to start chemo immediately, but the insurance denied it. They are calling it experimental. We got the estimate yesterday. It is almost $35,000. They want payment up front. If we cannot pay within 30 days, it goes to collections. Mona, we are already drowning. We could lose the house. You know that feeling when your body is present, but your thoughts start floating several feet above you. Like your brain is trying to spare you by creating distance. That is what happened to me. I was 23, 6 weeks into medical school, $847 in my checking account, rent due in 5 days. And my mother was telling me my father had cancer again, and the only thing between him and treatment was money I did not have. Send me the paperwork. She emailed it less than an hour later. A denial letter, official letterhead, patient name Jeffrey Beller, case number, reviewer, codes, clinical language. Total patient responsibility estimated at $34,850. It looked real. I stared at that file on my phone until the words blurred. I almost called my father. I almost asked him myself. But anyone who has ever had a parent go through cancer knows there is a kind of fear that makes you avoid the direct question, because hearing the answer from the person you love feels unbearable. My father hated discussing his illness, hated details, hated feeling like the patient in the family. My mother handled everything. That had always been their system. She was a nurse practitioner. She spoke medical language. She coordinated care. She managed records. She was the bridge between his body and the rest of us. So I did what daughters do when they have been trained to trust the family system. I trusted the wrong person. I called Gabby. Did Mom tell you? Yeah, she sounded awful. Tyler is helping me look into charity programs, but I do not have any money, Mona. I barely have enough for rent. How much do you have saved? Maybe 600. I looked at the cinder block wall across from me and closed my eyes. Gabby and I were twins, same birthday, same schools, same household, same parents, but by then our lives already looked different. She had Tyler Bennett, investment banking track, wealthy family, Hoboken apartment mostly covered, doors opening, safety nets appearing. She still had stress. She still worked. She still studied, but she had a cushion I never had. I had a studio carved out of a converted living room in Jersey City, 2 roommates, thin walls, rent that consumed me. Savings from years of lifeguarding and tutoring and never buying anything unnecessary. I told her I would handle it. I did not know then how literal that promise would become. That night I opened my savings account, $11,850. It had taken years to build, summer jobs, birthday money, graduation gifts, chemistry tutoring, saying no to trips. No to dinners out, no to clothes I wanted, no to anything that was not necessary. Every dollar had a future assignment, residency applications, interview travel, emergency buffer. Maybe one day a real apartment with a bedroom door that closed. At 1:34 in the morning, I transferred all of it to my mother's account. When the confirmation screen showed 0, I just stared. Not because I regretted it, because I did not. I thought I had just saved my father's life. That is what makes what she did so unforgivable. She did not trick me out of extra money. She weaponized the purest thing in me, love. By morning, I knew $11,850 would not be enough. So I did what desperate students with no options do. I went online. Predatory lenders have a language of false mercy, fast approval, family emergencies, bad credit accepted, funds in 48 hours. The loan officer sounded bored as he explained the terms. $25,000, 9.5% APR, 6-year term, monthly payment $385. Total repayment $27,732. Do you understand these terms? Yes. Are you accepting under emergency circumstances? Yes. I signed electronically with hands that would not stop shaking. Approved on September 17th. Deposited on September 19th. Transferred to my mother the same day. Total sent $36,850. My mother called crying when the transfer hit. You saved your father's life. She said she would never forget it. That sentence lived in my body for years because she forgot immediately. The middle of that first year of medical school was a blur of bone-deep exhaustion and private collapse. I worked nights doing phlebotomy at the hospital, weekends in the cafeteria. Extra tutoring whenever I could squeeze it in. I learned how to study standing up because if I sat down too long, I would fall asleep. I learned how to nap in stairwells and locker rooms and empty call spaces for 20 minutes at a time. I learned how to stretch one meal into two and how to tell people I was fine while my body was quietly failing. Every month the same numbers came for me: rent, transit, food, phone, books. And that loan payment, $385. $385 in exchange for what I thought was my father's treatment. $385 that meant no margin for error, no cushion, no bad week, no rest. Eventually, I started donating plasma because I was still coming up short. Think about that for a second. I was in medical school studying physiology and pathology and human suffering while draining my own body for grocery money because I had emptied my life to save my father. At least that is what I believed. By December, I was down 14 pounds and so anemic I fainted during a practical exam. The school nurse asked when I had last eaten. I lied. She asked when I had last slept a full night. I could not remember. Still, I kept sending money when I could. A student loan refund, a little extra from tutoring, anything my mother hinted might help. And every time I called home, I asked the same questions. How is Dad? She always answered the same way. Good days and bad days. The treatment is hard. He is fighting. She never gave details. Never sent records. Never put him on the phone to discuss the medical side. When I pushed, she would say, do not burden yourself. Focus on school. The doctors have it under control. That should have been my second warning. The first was the letter. The second was the vagueness. But suspicion is hard when fear is louder. Then came Thanksgiving. Gabby posted family photos from home. My father carving turkey. My father smiling. My father looking healthy. No visible weight loss. No hollowed cheeks. No obvious chemo effects. No fatigue written on his face. I texted Gabby, Dad looks good. Yeah, treatment must be working. Which hospital is he going to? Not sure. Mom handles all that. I stared at her reply for a long time. Not because it proved anything, because it did not. That was the problem. There was always just enough uncertainty to keep doubt from solidifying. Just enough plausible explanation to keep me obedient. And when you are 23 and tired and terrified and hanging by your fingernails in medical school, sometimes plausible is enough. January grades came back. Anatomy 74, Physiology 76, Biochemistry 71. Passed, barely. Gabby was near the top of the class, I was near the bottom. Same brain. Same upbringing, same school, different burden. My advisor looked at my transcript and then at my face and asked if I was working. I said part-time. It was technically true if you ignored the fact that my part-time jobs had consumed my life. Student loans should cover basic living costs. Not for me. I wanted to tell him. Not when your mother's lies are drafting your future one payment at a time. February brought the first crack. I should have followed all the way through. I was drawing blood from a college student recovering from an appendectomy when he looked at my name badge and brightened. Wait, are you Mr. Beller's daughter? Yeah, how is he doing? We all thought he was still recovering. He has been out on leave since September, right? I paused. What do you mean on leave? He has not been teaching chemistry. We figured it was the cancer stuff. After the draw, I sat in the supply closet and did the math. My father had taken medical leave from school. 4 months. Teachers' union disability. Partial salary. There was money coming in I knew nothing about. I still did not call him. That failure still haunts me. People love clean stories where the victim did everything right until the villain stepped in. That is not real life. Real life is messy. Fear makes you passive. Love makes you trust. Exhaustion keeps you from following the thread when something feels off. And my mother knew exactly who I was when she lied to me. She knew I would choose him over myself every time. In March, she texted me, "Great news. Your father's scans are clear. The treatment worked." "Thank you for everything," I cried in the hospital bathroom. I was so relieved I had to sit on the closed toilet lid and put my forehead in my hands. All that suffering, all that debt. All that lost sleep. Worth it. He was alive, he was safe. My sacrifice mattered. I had no idea I was crying over a lie. Then came April. Gabby called just before midnight, shrieking with excitement. Tyler proposed. He had done it on a helicopter ride over the Hudson, followed by dinner at Per C. The ring was huge. The family was thrilled. Everything was happening fast. I congratulated her. Asked the right questions, smiled into the phone because that is what sisters do, and then wedding talk started. The date, the venue, the planner, Napa Valley, June. I remember sitting upright in bed when she said Napa. Napa in June, 10 weeks away. She kept saying simple and intimate while describing 200 guests and a planner who specialized in fast luxury turnarounds. My mother called later to repeat the same line. Tyler's parents are covering the venue, so it is very low-key. Low-key. I repeated that phrase in my head while looking at pictures of vineyard estates and custom invitations and dresses that cost more than I made in a month. The feeling in my chest at that point was not yet certainty. It was a pressure, a slow gathering storm, a question I did not want to ask because I was already afraid of the answer. Where is this money coming from? I could not afford the flight. That part is important. The sister who funded the lie could not afford a seat to witness the outcome. My rent and loan payment had eaten everything. I called my mother and told her I could not make it to California. She acted shocked. "This is your sister's wedding. I do not have the money." "What about your refund? I sent that to you for Dad." A pause. Then she said she would ask my father. The next day she transferred me $600 for the flight and hotel. I took it. I hated taking it, but I took it. That money felt like pity at the time. Now I know it was evidence. Because people who steal from you will sometimes hand you back tiny pieces of your own money just to keep the machine running. I arrived in Napa on June 17th. The rehearsal dinner alone felt obscene. Private vineyard room, 5-course tasting menu, open bar, servers who moved like choreography, everything warm and golden and expensive. I sat there in a dress from Target, while my mother laughed with Constance Bennett and clinked glasses over caviar and candlelight. 9 months earlier, she had called me sobbing that we might lose the house. Now she was glowing in wine country, pretending everything had always been fine. That should have been the moment I confronted her. It was not, because I still had no proof, and because part of me still wanted a version of this that made sense. A version where Tyler's family was covering almost everything, and my mother's behavior was tacky, but not criminal. A version where my money had truly gone to my father, and this wedding was just terrible timing and bad optics and resentment talking. People underestimate how long the mind fights to protect itself from the worst possible truth. Then the truth opened its eyes. December 23, 2023, Christmas break. 3rd year of medical school, clinical rotations, 80-hour weeks. I was home for the holidays and moving through the house like a visitor when I saw Gabby's laptop open on the dining room table. Wedding photos on the screensaver. I should have walked away. Instead, I touched the trackpad. The screen lit up. A browser window was open, then another, then another. An invoice from Stone Manor. A Monique Lhuillier receipt. A spreadsheet titled Wedding Budget Final Costs Confidential. My pulse started pounding in my ears. I clicked, and there it was, the full cost breakdown. Douglas and Constance Bennett had indeed paid the venue side, but under that was another column. Paid by Beller family, $31,200. Dress, alterations, planner, florist. Photography, videography, invitations, hair and makeup, welcome bags, transportation, hotel blocks, wine for the rehearsal dinner, each line tagged with payment dates. March, April, May, June. My hands went cold because I already knew those dates. September 2021, my transfers, March through June 2022, wedding payments. I opened my banking app. Transfer to Diane Beller, 11,850. Transfer to Diane Beller, 25,000. Then my loan history, month after month after month, $385. I could hear Christmas music somewhere in the house, could hear dishes in the kitchen, my father laughing, the TV low in the living room, normal sounds. And right in front of me was the moment normal died. I went upstairs. I logged into my father's insurance portal. His member ID was still saved from when I was on the family plan. Claim history for 2021. Annual physical, follow-up oncology visit, CT scan, follow-up visit, total patient responsibility for the entire year, $220, no chemo. No denied treatment, no emergency bill, no $35,000, nothing. My mouth went dry. Then I opened the old denial letter again, the one my mother had sent me in 2021. This time I read it with 2 more years of medical training, and the illusion shattered instantly. The insurance company name did not exist. The case number format was wrong. The terminology was off. The medical codes were sloppy. The reviewer phone number was disconnected. It was fake, not exaggerated, not misunderstood. Fake. She had forged a medical crisis. She had used my father's cancer. My terror, my trust, my training, all of it. I sat on the floor of my childhood bedroom with the laptop and my phone and the insurance portal open, and something inside me moved from grief into clarity. That shift is hard to explain. People think betrayal feels like heartbreak. Sometimes it feels like focus. A terrible cold focus. A calm so sharp it almost feels holy, because once the truth becomes undeniable. You stop negotiating with it. You stop asking maybe. You start asking how long, how deliberate, how far did this go, and what do I do with it? I did not storm downstairs. I did not scream. I did not confront her in the kitchen with Christmas music playing while my father basted a ham, because anger burns hot and fast, evidence lasts, so I started collecting, first the screenshots, then the real insurance records, then the fake letter, then my own bank transfers, then the loan documents, then the payment history, then the wedding invoices, then I found something worse, emails. Old family computer, shared account, search term wedding fund, there it was, my mother writing to my father in March 2022, good news. I want to use the inheritance my mother left me for Gabby's wedding. The Bennetts are covering the venue, but I would like to handle the dress and flowers and photographer. My father replied asking how much. She said around 30,000. I froze, because I had been at that will reading. My grandmother had left my mother $12,000, not 30. She had lied to my father too. That mattered more than I can express. Up until that moment, some part of me had still feared that my father knew more than he let on, that maybe he had looked away. Maybe he had chosen her version because it was easier. Maybe he had accepted my sacrifice quietly. But no, he had been deceived too. He thought my mother was using inheritance money. He thought I had helped voluntarily. He had no idea she had built one daughter's wedding on the fear of losing him. That was the moment my guilt died. My father was not part of the scheme. He was another victim, and from that point on I knew exactly what I was going to do, not yet, but eventually, publicly. I spent the next year building a case, bank statements, loan documents, fake denial letter, real insurance records, wedding budget spreadsheet, vendor receipts, texts from my mother, emails to my father, grandmother's will. I even met with a law student through Rutgers who focused on family financial abuse. Can I sue? Maybe. Would it be easy? No, family fraud is ugly, expensive, slow. And the fact that I had transferred the money myself complicated everything. Then she said something that stayed with me. What does your mother value more than the money? I already knew. Her image. Exactly. That sentence became a strategy. If I wanted accountability, real accountability, something sharper than excuses whispered behind closed doors, I needed leverage. I needed witnesses. I needed a moment she could not spin, and then life handed me one. October 2025. Gabby texted the family group chat, graduating in December. Party planning starts now. I stared at the message, because I was graduating too. Same program, same timeline, same finish line. I texted my mother privately. What about me? Of course, honey. It is for both of you, it was not. A few weeks later, invitations went out. Celebrating Dr. Gabrielle Beller Bennett. Nothing about Mona. I called my mother and asked why. She did not even bother pretending long. It is really Gabby's event. The Bennetts are involved. It is complicated. Complicated. I looked at the binder in my closet, then at the invitation, then back at the binder. And for the first time in 2 years, my anger felt patient. Good, let it be complicated. I spent weeks drafting the card. Too angry, too vague, too sentimental, too long, too soft. I needed precision. I needed it to sound calm enough that no one could dismiss it as hysteria, but sharp enough that once the reading started there would be no graceful exit. I finally got it right. I congratulated Gabby. Then I laid out the facts. The wedding budget, the $31,200 in family contributions, my bank transfers from September 2021, my $25,000 loan at 9.5%, the balance still remaining, my father's insurance records showing $220 in total medical costs that year. The fabricated denial letter. The emails where my mother lied about inheritance money, my grandmother's will showing the actual amount, then the line that mattered most. Mom told me Dad's cancer treatment was not covered and that we would lose the house. I sent her every dollar I had. I took out a private loan. I worked 3 jobs. I barely survived first year. I hope your wedding was everything you dreamed of because I paid for it. I enclosed copies of everything. Then the final touch. A check made out to Gabrielle Bennett for the exact remaining balance on my loan. $7,615. Memo line. Final payment. Wedding balance. I was not asking for reimbursement. I was making the cost impossible to ignore. By the time I sealed the envelope, I was not shaking anymore. I was ready. So when I walked into that ballroom on February 15, 2026, with the chandeliers gleaming and the roses arranged, and the perfect family performance already underway, I was not improvising, I was executing. Back in the present, the MC tapped the microphone and the room shifted into attention. Ryan Mitchell had that polished ease people use when they have hosted too many wealthy family events and know how to sound warm without ever sounding uncertain. Welcome, everyone. Tonight we celebrate Dr. Gabrielle Beller Bennett. Applause thundered. Gabby stood and smiled with the grace of someone used to being looked at. Cream dress, soft makeup, diamond earrings. Tyler rising beside her to kiss her cheek while cameras caught the angle. Perfect. That is the word people use when the truth is not visible yet. Dinner passed in waves, toasts, laughter. Stories from classmates. A speech from my father that made my chest ache. He talked about resilience, about raising twin daughters who became doctors, about pride, about sacrifice, about how family carries you through hard times. My mother dabbed at the corners of her eyes. No one in that room knew the cruelest person. There was the one pretending to cry over family values. I ate almost nothing. Every few minutes I looked at the gift table. My envelope stayed near the top, visible, unmissable, waiting. At 8:43 dessert plates were cleared. Lights dimmed over the dining area and brightened over the stage. Ryan stepped to the microphone and smiled. Time for one of the Bennett family traditions. Opening gifts and reading cards so we can publicly thank everyone for their thoughtfulness. I saw Constance Bennett nod with approval. My mother went still. The first gift was harmless. A framed quote from an aunt, then wine from one of Tyler's colleagues, then a silver keepsake box. Applause, laughter, routine. The room learned the pattern. Gift, card, smile, applause. That mattered, because once a room learns a pattern, it lowers its guard. Ryan reached for my envelope. He lifted it with both hands and laughed lightly. This one has some substance to it. Soft laughter scattered through the room. My mother stood up so quickly her chair scraped across the floor. Ryan, maybe save that one for later. He glanced up. Constance leaned toward the stage. We open every gift. My mother forced a laugh that came out wrong. Yes, of course. I just meant it might be private. Douglas Bennett looked mildly puzzled. Public gratitude is the whole point. There is a kind of silence that happens before disaster. Not the silence after. The one before. Thin and tense and almost invisible. The air in the room changed. Ryan slid a finger under the seal and opened the sleeve. He pulled out the folder, then the card. He looked down, read the first line silently, then began, Dear Gabrielle. Congratulations on your doctorate. I am so proud of what you have accomplished. The room smiled. Normal, expected. I wanted to give you something meaningful for this milestone. Still fine. Since your wedding was such a beautiful celebration of your love and commitment, I thought I would share how that celebration came to be. The words landed strangely. Not loud, not dramatic. Just strange enough that the room shifted. A few faces turned. Ryan paused. He was reading ahead now. You could see it in his eyes. My mother started moving toward the stage. Ryan kept going. Enclosed, you will find the complete budget breakdown for your June 2022 wedding. $31,200 in family contributions. Murmurs. Not many. Just enough to say the room had stopped relaxing. Ryan pulled the first document from the folder, a highlighted spreadsheet. He held it up automatically because that was the format. Show the item. Read the note, smile, continue, but this was not a silver keepsake box. This was evidence. Douglas Bennett leaned forward. Constance's smile disappeared. Gabby's expression shifted from pleasant confusion to something tighter. Tyler looked at the sheet, then at my mother, then back to Ryan. My mother reached the foot of the stage. Ryan, stop. That is private. Constance's voice came cold and clear. Continue. Ryan swallowed. Bank statements showing my transfers to Mom in September 2021. $36,850 total. Now the room went quiet, not dead silent yet, but getting there. Ryan pulled out the statements, highlighted lines, my name, my mother's name. The amounts. My father stood halfway from his chair. What transfers? Ryan looked like he wanted to disappear, but by then the logic of the room had trapped him. Everyone was watching. Everyone had heard enough to know stopping would look worse than continuing. So he continued. The loan I am still repaying. $7,615 balance remaining. $385 per month until September 2027. Ryan lifted the loan statement. My father was fully standing now. What loan, Mona? I did not answer. Not yet. I stood at table 11 with my hands at my sides and watched the life leave my mother's face one piece at a time. Ryan's voice shook on the next line. Dad's insurance records from 2021 showing $220 in total medical costs. Not $35,000. That was the moment. That was when the room died. 200 guests, crystal chandeliers, silverware, glassware, designer dresses, perfume, professional smiles, all of it dropped into one impossible vacuum. My father looked from Ryan to my mother like language had abandoned him. Douglas Bennett extended a hand toward the documents. Ryan stepped down and gave them to him almost gratefully. Constance stood. My mother finally found her voice. This is a misunderstanding. No one moved. Ryan kept reading because now the card had momentum and horror of its own. The fabricated denial letter Mom sent me to justify the emergency. He held up the fake letter, then the real insurance record. Side by side. Even from where I stood, the contrast was brutal. My father made a sound I will never forget. Not a word, not a shout. The sound a human being makes when reality tears. What? Just that. What? Ryan finished the line. Mom told me Dad's cancer treatment was not covered, that we were in debt, that we might lose the house. I sent her every dollar I had. I took out a private loan. I worked 3 jobs. I barely passed first year. My mother climbed onto the stage. I was trying to help. My father turned to her slowly. Help who? No one had sat back down. The room stayed frozen in that terrible suspended state where no one wants to witness more but no one can look away. Ryan read the last part. You had a beautiful wedding. Stone Manor. Monique Lhuillier, 200 guests. I hope it was everything you dreamed of because I paid for it. Then the check slipped from the folder and fluttered to the stage. Ryan bent down and read the amount. $7,615. Memo line, final payment, wedding balance. He looked up at Gabby, then at me, then at my father. With love and congratulations, your twin sister, Mona, no one breathed. Then Gabby started crying, not graceful tears, not silent tears. Full body sobs like she had just been pushed off a cliff and had not hit bottom yet. Tyler put an arm around her, but his face was rigid. Douglas Bennett was scanning the documents with a lawyer's eyes. Constance looked at my mother the way people look at contamination. My father stepped toward the stage. Diane, her name in his mouth sounded strange, formal, distant. As if he had already lost the right to call her anything softer. Tell me this is not true. My mother looked at him and made the worst choice of the night. She tried to explain. The Bennetts were covering the venue, but we had to contribute something. I could not let Gabby look cheap. I could not let them think we had nothing. Mona had savings. She was young. She could recover. That confession did more damage than any denial could have, because now it was not just fraud, it was motive, image, status. One daughter elevated, one daughter spent. My father took another step back from her as if her skin had become fire. You used my cancer. She opened her mouth and nothing useful came out. Douglas Bennett looked up from the paperwork. Mrs. Beller, according to these records, you fabricated medical debt, misrepresented insurance claims, took funds from your daughter under false pretenses, and used those funds on wedding expenses. My mother snapped toward him. It was not fraud. He answered in the flat voice of a man who had seen enough evidence to stop pretending. It was exactly fraud. Someone near the back started crying quietly. Someone else had a phone out. Rachel Stone stared at the wedding spreadsheet like she was seeing the past in a new language. My sister kept saying the same sentence over and over through her tears. I did not know. I did not know. I did not know. I believed her. That did not make it hurt less. My father turned toward me then. He looked older in that moment than I had ever seen him. Not sick, broken, Mona, only my name. That was all he had. I walked to the stage. Ryan handed me the microphone without a word. The room watched. I looked at Gabby first, because no matter what had happened, no matter what had been done, she was still my twin. The person whose face mirrors mine in old childhood photos. The person who knew my birthdays from the inside because they were also hers. Gabby, I love you. This is not about humiliating you. She cried harder. I looked at my father. Dad, I am so sorry. Then I turned to my mother, and because I had practiced those words in my head for years, they came out calm. You let me believe I was saving his life. You watched me work until I collapsed. You watched me donate plasma to make loan payments. You watched me barely survive med school. And all the while you were booking florists and photographers and welcome bags. My mother tried to interrupt. I was trying to make sure Gabby fit into that family. I cut her off. You cared more about impressing wealthy strangers than protecting your own child. Silence again. A harder silence this time, because everyone in that ballroom knew it was true. My father's voice broke. How could you do this to her? My mother had no answer, and that was the real ending of the lie, not the documents, not the stage, not the audience. The moment she had no answer, I set the microphone down. I looked at Gabby one more time. Congratulations, Dr. Bennett. Then I walked off the stage, no dramatic pause, no victory, no final speech. Just movement, my purse over my shoulder, my heels against the ballroom floor, the sound of voices rising behind me as the truth started rippling outward through every relationship in the room. I reached the exit. The cold air outside hit me like water. I kept walking until I reached my car. Only then did my hands start shaking. People think revenge feels triumphant. It did not. It felt like surviving surgery without anesthesia. Necessary, precise, and brutal. I sat in the driver's seat staring through the windshield while my phone lit up. Dad again, Gabby. Unknown number. I answered nothing. A minute later, another message. This is Douglas Bennett. Your father gave me your number. What happened tonight was unconscionable. If you need counsel, call me. I put the phone face down, started the engine, and drove. Behind me in that ballroom, the family I had known my whole life was collapsing in real time. My father left with his brother. The Bennetts left without saying goodbye to my mother. Half the guests were gone within minutes. The other half stayed just long enough to watch the wreckage because people always do. By morning, clips of the card reading were everywhere. The internet did what it always does with public disaster. It turned pain into spectacle, hot takes, outrage, debates. Millions of strangers deciding which parts of your trauma fit neatly into their own beliefs about family and betrayal and public exposure. I ignored them. The story that mattered was the one inside my phone. My father called the next morning. I answered. The first thing he said was I did not know. He said it like confession, like plea, like grief. I know, he cried. I had never heard my father cry like that. Not during cancer, not during surgery, not during chemo. This was different, because disease feels random. Betrayal feels chosen. He filed for divorce the next day. He said if a person could use his body and his illness as a prop in a lie that calculated, then the marriage he thought he had was already gone. Gabby called too. She swore she had been told the money came from our grandmother's inheritance. She said if she had known, she would have stopped it. She said she was sorry. She said she did not know how to live with the fact that her happiest memories were paid for with my fear. I believed she had not known the source. I also knew ignorance had not kept me from suffering. Both things were true. That is the hardest part of family wreckage. There is rarely just one truth. Tyler paid off the rest of my loan. $7,615. One transfer. Loan closed. The email from the lender hit my inbox and I stared at it for a long time. Paid in full. 4 years and 4 months of $385 a month. Gone. You would think I felt relieved first. I did not. I felt grief, because the money disappearing did not return the years. It did not give me back the nights I worked until dawn. It did not erase the anemia, or the exhaustion, or the grades I almost drowned under. It did not restore the version of my mother I lost forever. But eventually relief came too, quietly. The first payday that arrived without that auto draft felt unreal. $385 stayed in my account, mine. For the first time in years, I looked at my balance and did not immediately start subtracting survival from it. Gabby and Tyler also made a donation in my name to create a medical student emergency fund. That part matters to me, because my pain did not just end in exposure. It turned into something that might keep another student from choosing between school and family crisis and predatory debt. There is a kind of healing in that, not forgiveness, not even redemption. Just meaning, my mother lost almost everything in the fallout: her marriage, her reputation, her access to me, much of her relationship with Gabby, her standing at work. The illusion she had built with such obsessive care. Months later, she sent one final email. She said she was sorry. Maybe she was. Maybe she was sorry for the harm. Maybe she was sorry she got caught. At some point, the distinction stopped mattering to me, because accountability is not measured by the quality of the apology. It is measured by whether the victim still has to carry the cost. I stopped carrying it. That is the real ending of this story, not the party, not the exposure, not the viral video. The real ending is smaller and quieter. It is me waking up in my apartment and realizing no one gets to weaponize my love anymore. It is me setting boundaries and keeping them. It is me becoming a doctor anyway. It is my father rebuilding a life without the woman who deceived him. It is Gabby and me trying slowly, painfully, imperfectly to find out whether there is still a bridge between us after all this. It is me understanding that telling the truth did not destroy my family. The lie did that. I only turned on the lights. So if you are listening to this right now, and there is someone in your life who keeps asking you to bleed for them while they call it love, Hear me carefully. Love is not supposed to leave you terrified and indebted and disappearing. Family is not supposed to require your silence in exchange for belonging. And if someone builds their comfort on your sacrifice through lies, protecting yourself is not cruelty, it is survival. My name is Mona Beller. I am 28 years old now. I am an emergency medicine resident. I stand in hospitals every day and help people through real emergencies, real fear, real grief, real pain, and maybe that is why this story matters so much to me. Because I know the difference now. I know what a real crisis looks like, and I know what it looks like when someone manufactures one to control you. I survived both. If this story hit you in the chest, then do not just sit with it alone. Go down to the comments right now and tell me one word. Private, public, forgive, never, boundary, done, whatever your truth is. Put it there. I read the comments. I mean that. I read them because stories like this remind people they are not crazy and they are not alone. And if you want more stories that go deeper than the polished version families show the world, more real betrayals, real reckonings, real endings that do not come wrapped in neat forgiveness, then subscribe right now. Like this video if you believe truth matters even when it costs everything. Comment if you have ever had to choose yourself after a lifetime of being told not to. And subscribe because the next story I tell might be the one that helps you finally name what happened to you. This was not the night I ruined my family. This was the night I stopped letting them ruin me, and I am finally free.